Hello everyone, and welcome to your NARSA weekly update for the week commencing Monday the 16th of June 2025. It's Gary here again, and oh wow, you know what, just like that, convention number 30 for the North American Rangers Supporters Association is in the history books, and what an event we put on. 5 days of fun-filled events, some inevitable drama that can happen when appropriate communication doesn't take place, some golf, some football, some VIP Q&As, some live music, some more live music, some food, some drinking, some singing, some dancing, some alligators, some dogs, some literal vultures eating an armadillo on the pavement when I was out for a run one morning. Weird, random. Heart and Hand live show, some speeches, and then ultimately culminating in Donald Trump delaying my flight back to Calgary last night as he flew in for the G7 summit being held in Kananaskis, which is about 45 minutes outside the city of Calgary here. I'll talk more about the convention at the convention update, but we'll just get through the main criteria information for right now. And I think this is quite a poignant, you'll know why in a second if you weren't at the convention. This is a very poignant podcast for you for this week, and I think most of it's very good, and I think you'll see why, and I would be happy to hear your thoughts and the comments about that after we get this out there. So in terms of shout outs, obviously no game segment this past week. There was some games on in terms of the World Club Cup when we were down there, but I have no interest in that because Rangers aren't in it, so I don't care really. But in terms of shout outs, I'd just like to thank obviously each and every single person who supported our convention, whether it was in person, whether it was in absentia. We had people really genuinely making a real family holiday out of it. A lot of people were there on holiday, and it comes, I should say, at like a significant time and effort and energy and cost and planning efforts. And we never, ever, ever, ever take that sort of stuff for granted. And I think it's a wee bit more doable to do that. I was actually just talking to my love Erin about that earlier today, saying, she says, oh, we should go on holiday before the convention because after the convention, we're just kind of done in. And I think we could do after the convention if we weren't involved in managing the convention. But when you're involved in managing the convention afterwards, it doesn't end on Sunday when the actual formal events are. I guess the Sunday leaving is informal technically, but so it's a staple part of what it is that we do. But people really genuinely make an effort. They really do, and it's so humbling, the effort that people do make to show their support for Rangers on our shows here, show their support for NARSA, and even the folks that come along. And I know there are people that come along just to essentially be in the vibe, to be in the atmosphere, and don't intend on, or actually don't at all attend any of the formal events that we have. You still get to experience the atmosphere. You still get to add to the occasion in and around the hotel or the bars or wherever people are congregating. And it's one of these, it just shows you really genuinely life is all about Rangers, and we proved that once again. It wasn't an easy convention, as I mentioned on a few of the previous pods, that it wasn't an easy convention to manage. But when we got there, it was just one of these things where everything just did what we typically do, And so thank you very, 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 very much to each and every single person who, in their own way, supported our convention there. It doesn't go underappreciated, it doesn't go unnoticed. And I couldn't be more blessed to be part of a group of people like that. I would also just like to specifically say, can you tell I've just been 5 days on the beer? I'd also like to say a specific mention. Now, I might get the name wrong here because anybody that I met, I tried my very best. I'm terrible with names. So I tried my very, very best to put the name in the phone and then just put a wee bit about them so that I would remember. And I think I've got the name right. I hope I've got the name right. That's Sheila O'Connor, who listens every single week in Belfast. I want to do a shout out, one, for listening every week. Thank you very much for doing that. And two, Sheila is also celebrating a birthday this coming Sunday. If I did not get the name right there, Sheila, and Sheila O'Connor, someone else, please get in touch, let me know, and I will gladly do a What Gaz Got Wrong next week episode there. When you think you're being organised and then you realise you're really not that organised. And I was so proud of myself too, because I was like, I'm going to do this, I'm going to make a point of doing this, so then it kind of looks like I'm on my phone the whole time, but there's a method to the madness and it's all going to work out in the end. And then I look at my notes afterwards and I'm thinking, Gary, I don't even understand any of that. What's that supposed to mean? So Sheila, I hope we got the name right. I truly do. And happy birthday this coming week. And another shout out to Rangers actually for setting, what would you say, setting the proper tone in defending who it turns out to be my new best pal, John Bomber Brown. From the notice of complaint that the SFA had issued to Rangers, I believe they issued it maybe last week or late last week, possibly on the weekend. I'm not sure if they operate on the weekend. But the club pointed out to them in response or retort to the notice of complaint that 4 out of the 5 members of the SFA's key match incident panel had deemed the on-field decision not to award the goal to be incorrect. And while they also added, and I'm going to quote now, that the club has serious concerns about the Scottish FA's selective enforcement and inconsistency, that finding helps explain the nature of a spontaneous emotional comment delivered during a highly charged moment and immediately challenged live on air. The club said, we have highlighted multiple examples of similar or stronger remarks made elsewhere in Scottish football that have led to no charges or sanctions. While we remain committed to maintaining high standards, we will continue to challenge any action we consider to be unfair or disproportionate. This is not messing about here. This is saying we are being judged and measured at a different standard here, and we're not going to assume this, or we're not going to put up with this any longer here, which is absolutely brilliant. Now they need to stick to the guns, and they need to continue to keep going and get to some sort of formal resolution on this. So when nothing happens, which we believe is kind of going to be the case, that they come out and say we still want answers on everything that we gave in terms of inconsistencies, or we want some sort of action plan as to how they're going to address that as they go forward. Because I think Scottish football in general terms has gotten away with a whole bunch of stuff they shouldn't have gotten away with for quite some time. So good for the newer part of the regime to be really backing this. You know, we haven't had our communications troubles to seek, I think, is probably the best way to kind of encapsulate where the club has been going, and the kind of the areas that we've been kind of floating in before, and now we're just going straight to the deep end and saying, right, let's have a go and let's really genuinely back up what we're doing. Of course, Bomber got multiple questions, and it ended up being a little bit of folklore and fun over the weekend there at the convention, and he was resolute. You know, he says, I mean, he's, you know, John Bomber Brown, he's a very, very honest man, and he says, we'll fight it, and if I get a fine, I'm going to donate to the Guide Dog Society. And I think we all know why he would say something like that, and it's just incredible that that's where we've gotten to. This is a sport. This is entertainment, and that's all it's ever really going to be. I know it means so much more to other people, myself included, but ultimately it's a sport. And if we can't then have people expressing themselves, if we can't have people getting to a point not where they're being destructive or insulting or anything like that, but if we take away the personality, like, honestly, what have we got? Truly, what have we got? I don't think we've got anything, so it will be really interesting to see, but I've really loved the tone of what Rangers had said there. Another shout out, of course, like I always do each week, for the Melbourne City Loyal Rangers Supporters Club. They have a culture weekend this November 21st, 22nd, and you have Ian Ferguson, Gary Stevens, Stuart Monroe all going to be there. There's a boat cruise and a singer and a grand banquet and such like that. Okay, so right, on to the convention. So I'm gonna likely forget stuff because I'm just literally back. You know, I'm not even back. What's that? I'm recording a bit later today, and I'll actually tell you why in a second here. But right now it's 4:48 p.m. I need to leave kind of soon because I'm playing football at 6:30, and I had planned to record this around about 1 p.m. this afternoon, and then I got a message from our wonderful MC and Heart and Hands very own David Edgar, who said, I am stuck in traffic and I'm going to miss my flight. And what happened was there was actually a literal shutdown of the I Drive, the main kind of highway that takes you from one place to another. I don't know if it's north or south, east or west, something like that. And if you know anything about Florida, you would probably know I Drive. But there was a spill, there was some sort of chemical spill, I think it was fertilizer or something like that happened after a crash between a large truck and a car or something like that. So it was gridlock. So he had left in plenty of time. He had left for a 30-minute ride to get to the airport essentially 3.5 hours earlier for his flight, so that he gets checked in, he gets checked through, everything is A-OK and there's no hassles whatsoever. And then he was in absolute danger of missing his flight. So we have a conversation going between myself, Brian and me, Brian Campbell that is, and we were trying to figure out the best way to get him supported. I was on to Expedia because that's who I'd booked the flights through. Expedia were on to BA, which is who the carrier is. BA says, well, you can't do it now because it's less than 3 hours to go. We only just found out about it right now, though, man. You know, like, it was those sorts of things. And it was very time consuming and it was very stressful. And then I messaged him about 15, 20 minutes after he was due to arrive at the airport, which was about 5 Eastern time, that is. And I says, how did it go? There was a wee bit of a delay, and I thought, right, he's probably at the BA desk right now trying to see if he can get an alternative flight. And he says, I made the plane. He made the flight because the flight was slightly delayed, and he must have got through an absolute lightning fast fashion through security, through customs as well. So brilliant that he got there. Very, very stressful for him, of course, and that doesn't, you don't want that. That doesn't really bode well after, working very difficult or very hard in the last 5 or 6 days or so. So very glad you made it, David. If you get an opportunity to listen to this, but that's why we're a wee bit late today. And as I say, I'll probably forget some stuff, and it'll come to me over time. And I do want to get Colin Bowman back on here just to do a bit of a recap of the convention. We talked about doing that for today, but there's enough content for today just to kind of have a personal conversation between yourselves, and then I'll open it up to Colin. Maybe we might do a special show for that one, actually, maybe dedicated, and see where it goes from there. So just in general terms, the VIPs were absolutely terrific. They had time for everyone. They're brilliant stories. I mean, we basically did a Q&A with Mark Haley and Bomber Brown. What would that be? 3 times over the course of the 5 days there, and not the same story twice. And we always, we kind of mixed it up with a 1991, 1992 season feel to the first night, and then I can't remember what it was on the Friday night, and then on the Sunday it was more just along the lines of what do we expect, what do we want to see, what do we need to see from the new regime in terms of the product that they're going to build and put on the park. And Russell Martin was a key part of that. We were very, very fortunate to get a video beamed over from Russell Martin wishing us all the very, very best and everything they do. And he finished off with saying, I hope to do you proud next season. Same here, Russell. Thank you very, very much for sending that. But the VIPs were terrific. We also had, of course, the former chairman, Fraser Thornton, there, and he was great. Did a speech on Saturday night. It was quite informative. Got really good feedback from that, and just an easy guy to be with, And one of the key challenges, I talked to Fraser directly about this, was, I spent some time with him. I sit down, I tell him who NARSA are, I tell him the things that we've tried in the past in terms of supporting the club, give him a wee bit of, our desire to help, essentially, and maybe kind of the beginnings of some brainstorming sessions and such. And then these people change, so I'm glad that he's in already. It's confirmed that he's moved from his chairman role, of course, to a director of the club, and I hope that we can have a bit of continuity with that, and then he can feed that information back to the folks that were there. And the Rangers delegation were just so helpful. I thought, really truly, through the whole event, we get a chance to hear from basically the folks that are in and around the club, then have been in and around the club. Now, Fraser's obviously here just for about 6 months now. Actually, do you know what? That's probably 6 months today, isn't it? Maybe 7 months today, because I have December the 16th in my head. And but Bomber and Haitley, of course, they've went through the various regime changes, and they seem optimistic. So if they seem optimistic, then that makes me optimistic as well. David Edgar, as I mentioned, notwithstanding his inability to get on the plane that he ultimately got on, was absolutely fabulous as always. He does the Q&As expertly well, manages the logistics of the evenings fantastically well, and I mentioned on my speech on Saturday night, I think he's the best in the business. I really do. We used to have a process, and we might have that again in the future, who knows, of changing the MC every year just to kind of mix it up and such. The reason we go with David is I genuinely believe he's one of the best at what he does, and he does a fabulous job of doing all the things that need to be done in a very efficient, ongoing manner. And it's great to know that you have a genuine, true blue nose. I mean, that's his literal job and career in life right now, is everything to do with the Rangers. So he does a fabulous job. And when we were doing it as an ad hoc one-off each year, it was one of these things where you end up in a situation where you don't really, you're having to re-explain who we are, especially if they're new, and then it's just a wee bit more heavy logistics, so it becomes a wee bit easier when you do that. Of course, Colin, Wolf, Ferguson, Bowman, and his team at Orange County were absolutely incredible, whether it was picking people up, thanks very much again for doing that, Greg, or it was just basically everything. I mean, Colin played a Very, very, very active role in this. He did a lot of the setup in terms of the technical setup of the music system. He did all the playlists for the DJ, the cultural playlists and such with the DJ, and was basically the go-to for absolutely everything. A monumental effort. The time and energy and expertise that he put into everything was just, we wouldn't have been able to have a successful event, quite frankly, if he didn't do what he did. And this was on his anniversary weekend and Father's Day weekend too. So you add that dynamic in there and managing the logistics and dynamics around that. I think I said on the weekend there, I'm fairly sure I did, that every host club is different. And some host clubs are easier to deal with, quite frankly, than others. And Colin was definitely one of the best that I've dealt with in my tenure with an NARSA executive. And he also presented me with a beautifully crafted commemorative award from Orlando Rangers Supporters Club, which has already taken pride of place in my house. I sent a photograph to Colin about that earlier. It was a very big surprise because he was designing ones for the VIPs, and then so we got the VIPs into a special room, and he presented them, got some really nice photographs, and then he says, "Oh, we've got one more," and it's just presented to Gary for being absolutely brilliant. I'm paraphrasing here, for being the best guy he's ever met, for being his hero. He said hero. He didn't say those exact words, but that's what he meant. I can tell, when he's a man of few words, I can put some words in his mouth there. Hero, legend, things like that is what he was really thinking. But that was so kind of him to do that. I don't normally get any awards for anything, so I'll take it. Absolutely take it. And it's beautiful. This beautiful wee thing. Yeah, this kind of blue thing all engraved and such. That's cracking. Absolutely. I got chocolate gifts from Jake Bailey. I got chocolate gifts, not as many as I was supposed to get, by the way, from Big Tam Martin, and he gave me Sure deodorant as well. And I get the odd badge and stuff like that as well, which is so kind of people to take the time and take the effort to do that sort of thing. And I just love doing that, getting photographs with different people in front of the flags and such. Is fabulous. The golf champs this year were Graham and Andrew Campbell, Martin Bell and John Bomber Brown, and they had 10 under. That was their score, 10 under, and I think the closest one to them was 1 under. There were only 3 4 balls, so they finished first out of 3, if you want to say that, or the third people finished third, out of the whole entire pack and field. There's different ways to spin things to make it sound positive, aren't there? And the football, I ended up on the red team, and we played against the blue team in the Absent Friends football match. And the game was 4 each. It was absolutely brilliant. 4 each, and then it went to penalties. We kind of debated a wee bit about whether it should go to penalties or whether it should leave it at 4 each. And with that, you know what? We need a winner. So we went straight to penalties. And I have to say, the blue team absolutely folded like a pack of cards in the penalty shootout. We had, during the game, I do want to make a mention of that Callum Smith, who was the Experience Kissimmee Challenge winner, who we had on interview, him and his lovely lady Gemma a while back there. He's a very good player, and his 2 boys were playing, who are also very good players as well. And he scored an absolute peach of a goal, right top, right corner. It was a beauty. Big Tam was definitely not saving that one. And anyway, so back to the penalty kicks. It started with, there was a wee change of goalie. There was a wee bit of skullduggery really from the blue team in the beginning, and they changed their goalie, and then we decided to change our goalie, and we had did we go? I can't remember if we went first, but anyway, the blue team skied the first penalty, and then we had Keir Mitchell score 1 for us and save 2 for us. So we ended up winning. I think it was 3-1. We didn't even need to bother taking the last 2. That's how much they folded. Oh, it was actually humiliating, kind of embarrassing. We got a chance to toast Absent Friends after the game and head over to the AGM. But brilliant times, but very, very warm, I have to say. But it's great to get coached by Mark Haley, Bomber Brown, and hopefully everybody had a great time when they were here. But very competitive match. It was such a fluke the way we had managed to align the teams with the kind of skill sets on both sides. And then it was over to the AGM, and this one was a long one. Actually, maybe the longest one I think I've ever been part of. And then maybe someone can correct me on that if it's not true, but it was over 2 hours long. And I have to say, I have to be really honest, that the AGMs I always find are really awkward. They're just, the atmosphere isn't good. It's always a wee bit tense, and there's just, I try and bring a bit of energy to it, but it's kind of difficult when it's dry. We have to go through everything that we have to go through as per our constitution. This year was, of course, an election year, and we had some constitutional changes to vote on, so that always does take a wee bit longer, especially if there's a wee bit of to and froing in terms of the election and voting and such like that. And we did it hybrid this year for the first time. I'm not sure it worked out absolutely brilliantly for us, but we were asked to do it hybrid, and we did. And so we had some online voting as well, which ended up being a wee bit, just taking a wee bit more time than we would have liked. So we'll maybe rethink that in the future. We'll see what it looks like. But here's something that you may or may not know already, depending on when you listen to this and whether or not, of course, you were at the event in and of itself, is I am now the past president of NARSA. I was the president, of course, before, and I'm now the past president. The president now is Billy Ferguson, and then we have a newcomer to the executive, Gary Fleming from Toronto Central, is the vice president, and we have another newcomer. Secretary is now Beth Reid from Bayou City Loyal. And Brian Campbell is still remaining on the executive committee, and he swapped his role from VP to convention director. And a special shout out to Brian. You know, we really truly have been comrades in arms over the years, and we've worked together, and while we still work together, it will be slightly in different capacities. I'm excited that he's going to continue with us. And the even better thing is that it was Gaynor, his wife, that had nominated him in the beginning, so he already had executive approval to go ahead and move on there. So that was a pleasant surprise at the end, because he's other than being a very good friend of mine, he's very skilled, talented, cares, and does everything he can to put in the work there. So Brian is the convention director. Allan McWatt stayed in his position of broadcast RTV director, as did Lorraine Spence for the communications director role. And we do currently have open positions for both the treasurer and the sponsorship and marketing director roles. So this is a very good time to just say thank you very much to outgoing NARSA executive members. Alec Grant was with us for a couple of terms there. He is the outgoing treasurer, and is in the process right now of helping us reconcile all the finances from the convention, and then he'll be done. And Sandra Hawthorne, who was a bit of a, you know, kind of like treasurer, you know, with half of her role sort of thing, and secretary for the other half, because we had the way our banking is structured, it was a wee bit difficult to do some of the things with Alec being based in the US, and Sandra was a bit more conveniently located towards where our banking is done. So Sandra played a whole bunch of roles, and Sandra joined the executive at the same time I did, you know, so I have another couple of years to go, but we've been through it all together. So thank you very much to both of them for everything they did for us while in role. So back to the fact that I'm the past president. So that caused a wee bit of a stir over the past couple of days, and it's actually quite ironic to think that it's just over 48 hours since it happened, you know. But I'll give you an overview of how it all unfolded for me. The main question that I was asked after the AGM was whether I knew this change from president to past president was coming. No, I did not. I didn't expect the change. I didn't plan for the change. I had absolutely no knowledge whatsoever that it was coming. And the reason that's important to highlight that is twofold for me. And I explained this to some folks over the weekend. One, I had zero chance to prepare a transition plan at all, and approach things with the preparatory lens of doing a handoff and doing wrap up and such, and just kind of enjoying the events from that angle. And number two, I didn't get the chance to enjoy the moment with my family. You know, Leo, if any regular listeners are there, you know, Leo was on the fence about coming, and then decided he wasn't coming, and then Erin couldn't come, but we could have made it happen, but she's got things to manage with her family logistics that make it a wee bit difficult to kind of break the cycle and such. And I was there completely on my own, so I didn't even get a chance for anyone from Calgary or anyone from my family at large to enjoy the moment with me, which was really disappointing, I have to say. And then on Saturday night, I had to change my speech, of course, because I just had thought that I was going to be continuing as president, so changed that around a little bit. And then at the end, I got quite emotional, I have to say, just basically thanking everyone for all of the ongoing support, all of the camaraderie. The event, the atmosphere at the event was incredible, and people, just seeing people having a great time, you know, not in the face of a lack of adversity in terms of being a Rangers fan over this past wee while. And everyone was still doing what they had to do to make it a really poignant event for us. And it was great. So I got a bit emotional at the end, and I couldn't quite finish my speech the way I wanted to, because what I wanted to do was ask everyone if I could get a selfie, where I would turn around, take my phone and get a selfie with everyone in the background, all looking very beautiful. And I couldn't. I kind of broke down a wee bit there. But what happened afterwards was I got a standing ovation. from everyone in the room, which actually set me off even more. I'm actually getting emotional bloody talking about it right now. And it was one of the most poignant things that happened to me in my entire life. Didn't expect it, and it prolonged the grief a wee bit, and it was so beautiful. And again, my family didn't get an opportunity to enjoy it, so that's just that's one of these, that's too bad moments. So with change comes change, and I truly don't know what Billy and his team has in mind in terms of their strategy going forward. What does it mean for the podcast was probably the second, maybe joint first question that I got, because a lot of people were asking about that as well. And initially, I says I don't know. I truly don't know. I don't know. I don't know who listens to it. I don't know if the existing, or the previous, I should say, executive listened to it or not. And I don't know if they've seen it as valuable, and they get to decide. The new executive gets to decide what that looks like. I did have a quick chat over WhatsApp with Billy today, and he fully intends to continue going forward with it. The reason I mentioned that for right now is that what worked really, really well for 234 straight episodes since December 2020 until now was because I was the president. And as a president, I was involved with and actively contributing to absolutely everything that happened in NARSA. That's not going to be the case now. As past president, I'm not obliged to be part of every single committee that's out there, and I'm going to use this time truly to just support from a consulting perspective, quite honestly, and give everyone my time, attention, my counsel, and a bit of my input and my skill sets wherever required. But it's not going to be as consuming for me as it was before, and that's great news for my family. It's great news for my business and my time management, and hopefully ultimately it will be great news to let everybody grow into their roles. It'll be great news for NARSA. But that not being the case now, we need to make a different process, because I have zero interest in chasing people week after week after week to find out what happened. So we're going to have to put a process in place to give me information about the convention. Brian and I chat almost every day, so I don't have any fear about that. About RTV, Allan and I are in regular communication about what's happening in the communication front, about what's happening in terms of anything else essentially that's going on, so that I can provide that to you. Because what I really want to do is provide you with a quality, informative, and entertaining podcast each and every week. So a wee bit of change is coming. I wasn't sure until I chatted to Billy whether this was going to be the last one or not, and I was obviously absolutely going to do this one, and then kind of move on from there. So I'm afraid, unless Billy's words were, we're going to continue doing it, but he didn't specifically say it was going to be me. So I'm making a bit of an assumption there. So I imagine it will be certainly for next week. And if he decides he wants someone else to do it, he's more than welcome to do that. I'll just show them the process, and hopefully they'll be as entertaining for you as I have been, if I have been, of course. So again, with a little process and a little thing about this, we will see how things unfold from here. What I can say, folks, honestly, is I absolutely love doing these podcasts, but they are very time consuming. So it becomes a delicate balance. If we want to make this work going forward, I need information from other people, and as I say, I have no interest in going and chasing it. I do enough chasing and other things on that. And just to end up kind of on the podcast part, I did want to thank everyone for coming over. Sometimes there's not a lot of feedback, almost zero feedback at times, in terms of anything of people enjoying it or whatever that looks like. And then when I get something wrong, I get a trickle of people saying, "Oh, that wasn't that year," or "You didn't do that right," or "You said this," or "You did that." And I love that, but the amount of people that came up and thanked me and told me that they listen regularly and get value from it really, really meant a lot. And I really, really genuinely appreciate that, because sometimes you just don't know. I'm talking into a microphone and I'm just projecting this stuff out there, and you don't really know if it's landing or not. So it was so kind of people to do that, and for them to have genuine concern about it not continuing was also flattering. I think if the executive decided they weren't going to do something, I'm certainly going to continue podcasting. I do podcasting on my own business side with all kind of self-development, self-education things that I'm into, and I would always do something else. There's other avenues that I've been looking at exploring over the last wee while in terms of Rangers podcasting as well. So now that I have a wee bit more time, potentially, you never know what else could spin up. But we are committing to the NARSA Weekly Update podcast, and I will be past president for the next 2 years. So God willing, I will bring these into your ears for the next 2 years, as I say, unless there's actually going to be a different host. I didn't get that completely clarified. I should probably do that. I'm just thinking about that on the fly here as I'm recording. Anyway, so what's next? So I think taking a breath is one key thing for us all. We obviously have to finish off all the admin from the convention just past there, and they're draining. They're very difficult to manage, and I love to be in it. You know, I'm literally the last person leaving the hall, the last person leaving the golf, the last person leaving the football fields and such like that. You know, to soak up every bit of atmosphere, to be there, to be present, and to really genuinely enjoy the social side of things. And that comes at a cost though, because it's very tiring. And so I think everyone needs a rest, myself included. And then we just wrap everything up and see what the financial damage is, and then we'll just work from there. Obviously, this is a different one in terms of the liabilities that we had created by signing the original contract with the hotel, and we hope to come to an amicable solution with the hotel that gives us an opportunity to continue to be solvent, and to continue to be able to operate as we go forward. Personally, in terms of NARSA, as I mentioned earlier, for me, I'm going to support the new members of the exec where I can and where they think they need it, and I'll ease into the role, and I'll take a breather to think about how I can best use my 13 combined years, 9 of them as president, to support the association going forward. I actually truly don't know what that means yet, but I did do a transition plan on the plane last night on the way home, and I'll share that with Billy, and we'll see what he wants to do. He gets to decide, and that's absolutely a-okay by me. But we'll see. I'm still processing, because I had a plan and vision for what I thought was going to happen, because I thought I was still going to be in the president's chair, and I don't have that now, so I can share that information with Billy, and he can decide to take it up if he wants to take it up. But yeah, unanticipated changes bring opportunities, and professionally I get an opportunity now to take the time, effort and energy that I was putting into, and had planned to put into NARSA, into my business, into my family first of course, but into my business, which it's really kind of where it should have been anyway. But doing work on a volunteer role that you genuinely love and you're really passionate about can become quite addictive, and I don't mind admitting that it consumed me a lot of the time, to the detriment of family time, to the detriment of earning a living. And I 100% acknowledge that that's by choice. Nobody forced me to do it, but I just loved it, and I put everything that I could into it. And I hope, if in any way that I've served you in some way as the president of NARSA, that I hope you've been pleased with the way that we've managed to get things done. Not everyone has agreed with everything that has happened. There have been some friendships broken as a result of this job, and been a lot of friendships created as well. And it's been a roller coaster of a ride. I'm sad to be leaving it, but I'm not too disappointed, because I have so many other very positive things going on in my life. So yeah, that was a bit of an unexpected twist of events on Saturday afternoon at the AGM, and we'll see what happens after that. Oh boy, life is life, eh? So on to the communication section. We did, I think, the one main thing from Rangers last week. I guess there's probably two, wasn't there? They confirmed the departure of Issame Charai from the men's first team coaching staff. He had joined, of course, in January, and what kind of felt like just an odd appointment at the time. And then when he remained with Barry Ferguson and his team through that, you're kind of thinking, right, okay, that's interesting. But then, of course, Russell Martin has come in as head coach, and it's been mutually agreed that Charai is leaving. So off he goes with all of our best wishes, and thank you very much for everything that you did. And the second one was the RTV came out with an exclusive RTV Studios presents Rangers Revolution, the David Holmes story. You'll remember a wee while back that we had David Holmes. I was so honoured to get the privilege to meet him and interview him for his book One Voice, and it talked about the revolution at Rangers, which was his revolution. It wasn't David Murray's, as David Murray might think it was. And it's a brilliant story. It was a great interview. If you haven't had a chance to listen to it, please go back into our archives and listen away. And they now have that chronicled in a documentary, so I can't wait to get a look at that, to see how we basically rose from the ashes under his leadership. Reminder about the Rangers Ladies Lunch, presented by Molton Brown, Friday the 22nd of August. If you're looking for tickets for that, you can go to the Rangers website and grab them. And 5 Stars have the evening with Barry Ferguson, Allan, McGregor, Neil McCann and Billy Dodds on the 3rd of January as well. You can go to their socials and or site and see what that looks like. Okay, so that will do it for this week. my friends, and as always, I'd like to take this opportunity to truly, from the bottom of my heart, thank you for taking the time to listen to this, and I hope that it provides value, and I hope it provides a wee bit of entertainment, or edutainment, as I like to call it now and again. And please do share it with one other person. Things don't grow organically, by you sitting saying that was good and then just not telling another person about it. Tell one more person this week, please. Just tell one more person. Listen to this podcast. If you want to find out what happened at the AGM, go and listen to this and see how Gary feels about it. It's maybe, as I said earlier, a wee bit one of the more poignant podcasts that we pop out there. And this is, folks, an absolute watershed moment for NARSA, and I'm hopeful that the newer members will inject something different into our operating model and our operations, and we can see how it goes for there. From there, I will be back next week, I think, and but we will absolutely communicate what's going on as it's going on over the near term and the longer term as we move forward. And just thank you very, very, very much from the bottom of my heart for your support of me personally, of NARSA at large, for taking the time to listen, even if it's just a one odd episode every now and again. Any listener is absolutely massively appreciated by me and by NARSA. It's been my absolute honour and pleasure to talk to you each week, and I hope to do so again. And until next time, take care and all the very best, okay? Follow.